let's go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let's go ahead and get started. Today, I'll introduce the roles that we have for today. And Will you please stand up where you're at and tell us what you'll be doing for today?
Hello, everybody. I am the timer. I will be keeping track of the length of the presentations, which are currently scheduled for 10 to 12 minutes. So when the meeting or the speech is at 10 minutes, this thing will turn green. I'm hoping the presenters can see it from their position. At 11 minutes, it will turn yellow. And at 12 minutes, it will turn red. And for now, it'll just be white.
Thank you, Will.
Can the presenters see the light, Michelle?
We probably won't, but we run around carrying our own timing devices. So that's okay. In case we can't see, we're good. Thank you, though.
Yeah, don't worry about the time. I'll make sure that I finish within 5 minutes and 30 seconds, absolute max.
Okay.
And Adam, after you're done chewing, will you stand and deliver the word of the day for us, please?
Hello, everyone. I'm the grammarian and word of the day. And so the word of the day is gumption.
Oh, gumption.
Gumption, which the definition in Merriam-Webster says, common sense, horse sense, enterprise, or initiative. Gumption.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, let's get started. Michelle, would you like to take over the introduction of the speakers?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I'm guessing that you're Lindsay, right? I hope you're Lindsay. If not, then just tell me. Okay. So welcome everyone. And this is a very unique experience because we are having an open house. You guys are there and we're going to have a panel discussion and we're all here in the cloud. Very interesting. We have two panelists today, and I am hoping that Nick should be on the slide on the big screen right now. I am going to spotlight the screen. There you are. So he is on the screen. So we're going to have two panelists. Since you will only see the faces really tiny on the other screen, we have their big photo up there, and I will introduce both of them first, and then we'll have Nick followed by Elizabeth. After that, we will have Q&A. You can ask, I was going to say you can ask anything. No, there's one thing you cannot ask. Please don't ask about Brexit. They both requested, please do not ask about Brexit. Anything else about England, yes, but not Brexit. And of course, we also have very limited time. I also would like you to, I'm sure you all have your cell phones, if you can take down my cell phone number, it's 714-273-0743. I'll tell you why. Again, 714-273-0743. Now that you have it, if you have any questions, because there's so much technology floating around, the easiest way would be just to send me a text message. So I will get it and I can ask our panelists. Yay, we're so high tech, low tech, whatever tech. Let me now introduce our panelists. Nick is a fanatic lover of sport, especially soccer. and that's their soccer, not American soccer. Listen to how he turned negatives in his life into positives with the help of his favorite soccer team, the Liverpool. I think it's Liverpool FC, yes. And our second panelist is going to be Elizabeth. And just perfect timing, when I'm about to introduce her, I get a phone call. Our second panelist is Elizabeth. She has been a Toastmaster for 9 years. She's a distinguished Toastmaster and a Pathways enthusiast. She was born in England and named after Queen Elizabeth and her daughter Anne. So we got two panelists, and we are watching our clock very carefully. So let us get right on to our first speaker, Nick. Let's all welcome Nick. And Nick, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Michelle. Today, I want to talk about the project, which is focus on the positive. Don't think about all the negative stuff. Focus on the positive. Well, it's a lot easier said than done, isn't it? Let's face it. I'm a coach, and coach, at the moment, my kind of standing is feast to famine. Sometimes I have a good month, sometimes I have a bad month. Don't tell anybody, by the way. I'm always busy. What actually happened over the last few months is that I've been keeping track, especially for the last 4 weeks, on my mood. The reason for that is on doing this project, I've been keeping a journal. So the number of times I feel really high, the number of times I feel really low, and I go and kick the dog or something. Just a joke, folks. I don't have a dog. And what I realized was if I have a bad day, I'm literally, kicking the dog. If I have a good day, I'm going around kissing everybody. Okay, perhaps we need to address this. How do people take disappointment? How do other people do it? And what I realized was, looking back at it, there were some days when I had a good day, and I still went and kicked the dog because my team didn't do very well. Aha, I'm one of those who doesn't matter what's going on in my life, what good is going on in my life, but if my team loses, I'm the worst person to be around. Luckily, we're having a stellar season, fantastic this season. However, we're still 1 point behind Manchester City. And with 2 games left, I don't think we're going to win the league anymore. So looking at my struggles and the struggles of my team, what I learned was to focus on the positive, to be grateful for what I actually have, to make sure that, I have challenges, but I set goals to overcome them, to accept that I can't control everything, and also to accept feedback. So what that does for me is to help me cope with my life. It also helps me cope with the fact that my team is doing fantastically well, but still are beaten by an even better team. We're having an amazing season. And that takes me on to sport in the UK and how it affects individuals' lives like me. There is a lot of people, probably about 10 million people in this country, who, like me, will feel sad if the team win and be happy if they will feel sad if our team loses and will feel happy when we win. How logical is that? Not very, but hey, this is life. You have those in your sports: football, hockey, basketball, all of those things. In the UK, we have lots of sports. We have soccer, we have cricket, we have tennis, we have hockey, we have any number of sports. And we love our sports. But I wanted to actually look at football in particular, or my soccer in particular, because what's actually happened is I'm going to show you a couple of the players in my team. And what happens is that these 2 players are 2 of our best players. The one on the left is Mohamed Salah. He's an Egyptian. The one on the right is Sadio Mane. He's Senegalese. That's West Africa. And something interesting has happened this season. Not only do we worship them as players and as people and as individuals, we worship them for what they represent and who they represent. The reason is they're both Muslim. And it's really interesting. I named my speech, If It's Good Enough for You. There's a song, an old song, which was like, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me, and so on. And what the Liverpool fans have done is to taken these two into our hearts and said, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me. If it's good enough for you, I want to be Muslim too. Just think about that. Just think about the time that we live in. What sort of impact has been given to British sport, to British culture, by a simple act of 55,000 fans every week singing those words, I want to be Muslim too. Because the impact that makes is, what they're saying is, okay, we hear about all the negativity about people, but you know what? In Britain, we're very, very fair people. In fact, sometimes too fair for our own good. In this case, they don't believe the hype in the papers, the bad news, the fake news, whatever else. What they're saying is, these guys are great. They're great, not just because they're great, but because they're Muslim and they live their lives in a good way. Just think about that for a second. Take away the hype, learn from people, whoever they are, and make sure you live your life the best that you can every day of your life, and be grateful for what you have and accept that you can't control anything. Be positive, accentuate the positive, move on. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I love that thought about how the British always seem to find something positive. And if we had more time, we could have so many more examples of that. However, I am now going to ask our second speaker to come up. And Elizabeth, as I've already introduced her, is named after the Queen herself and the Queen's daughter. And she will be speaking about things that are, and I hope I pronounce this, I always get tongue twisted, about things that are quintessentially English. Let's welcome Elizabeth.
Thank you, Michelle. Can I ask, first of all, how many of you have actually visited England by show of hands? Oh, excellent. That's really good. At least some of you have. Shakespeare described it as, in Richard II, he described England as this sceptred isle, this precious stone in the silver sea. And tonight I want to talk to you about things that are quintessentially English, things that make England and the English unique. First of all, I'll start with the bard himself, William Shakespeare. I think most of you have known in your English classes, known of him through his poems, through his sonnets, and through his plays. And he really epitomized and writes English in its most beautiful form. And it's one thing that I believe is quintessentially English. Next, we look at food. And any nation loves its food because it says something about its heart and its soul. And for those of you who have visited England, you will know that one dish that above all else is very English is fish and chips. Simple white fish, cod, in batter with lovely large chip potatoes served with vinegar and salt and maybe a touch of tomato ketchup. Absolutely beautiful. And certainly one of the things I usually miss when I'm away from England is fish and chips. The other dish that may surprise you a little bit is chicken tikka masala. And I have added that because England is, particularly London, is a multicultural city. And this curry was developed by Indians born in England who live in England for the English palate. And it's now so popular is almost on par with fish and chips. I thought I ought to mention that. But of course, what is, again, quintessentially English is a cup of tea. And if you're in England and a friend invites you around for a cup of tea, you know you've probably made a good friend. You can drink your tea with a dash of milk, a lot of milk, or no milk. And if you ever get the opportunity to have high tea at a place like the Ritz or hotel, this will be served with scones and sandwiches, and that again is very English. Start the day with a cup of tea and everything will be okay. Next slide is something that again is very English, pomp and circumstance. If you see the Queen doing the state open of Parliament, royal weddings, royal funerals, trooping of the colour, or any event, these usually draw crowds of thousands, sometimes millions. And the rich history of the royal family is something that I think visitors love about England and they come to see. And the Queen celebrated her 93rd birthday a week ago. And as I said, I was named after her, and I'm lucky to have met her about 3 times and to be in her presence about 5 times. London is the capital city of England. And as Samuel Johnson said in 1777, if a man is tired of London, he is tired of life. And he said that because there is so much beauty encapsulated in our wonderful city. Museums, the Houses of Parliament, the Tower of London, which is over 1,000 years old, St. Paul's Cathedral, Buckingham Palace, the list is endless. When I have visitors visit me from all over the world, I always say to them, what are the top 3 things in London you want to see? And invariably, it is Buckingham Palace, the Tower of London, and Houses of Parliament. The order may change, but it's usually that. So the message I would like to get across to you about the quintessential beauty of England is it's encapsulated in the architecture, the arts, the food, the language, the music, the Beatles. But above all, I want to leave you with things that I believe aren't captured on the slides, which are the values of justice, an ingrained sense of democracy, fair play. And I know there are many beautiful places on earth, but I'm pleased that this is the country where I was born, and this is the country that I would love to answer your questions about, and I look forward to hearing them. So that's my take on what is quintessentially English. So thousands of years of history in 5 minutes. And I think I've just reached the 5 minutes. Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you so much. Now I'm a contest chair. But it felt we are Toastmasters and we have this structure, which actually is also very British. We always have a structure. We have a protocol. And yes, so I am the moderator, the panelist, panel facilitator, and anything else, which right now will be to field your questions. If anyone has any questions, please just message them to me. Again, the phone number is 714-273-0743. And there's, I think, Bobby. I welcome Bobby. We have a guest or somebody who's online. Her name is Bobby. So Bobby, for you can actually type it into the chat if you have a question. And while you are allowing those thoughts to percolate in your mind, I have a couple of questions ready to ask from our panelists. And Elizabeth and Nikhil, either one of you, just feel free to jump in and respond to this. Oh, wait, I have a question from... Okay, now it's just a note. Yes, Bobby, you're very welcome. And we are happy for you to be here as an observer. And feel free, as I said earlier, to come in with a question if you do. So, Elizabeth and Nick, if you had to say just one thing that you consider is very unique about England and which you think surprises people when they visit England for the first time, what would it be? as briefly as you can. So perhaps let's start with Elizabeth.
I think people may be surprised by the amount of queuing we do, you know, forming a line. I think it's almost instinctively British, and people will just join a queue, sometimes whether they know what it's for or not. I have lived in cities like Paris, I've traveled extensively in other countries, and I do not see this. People may be surprised by that, I would suggest.
Yes, that is awesome. And I do notice that the Brits just seem to like protocol or structure of going into a queue, a line. Yes, Nick, did you want to add anything? I mean, from your take, what would be something?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, I agree with Elizabeth. Queuing is wonderful. Secondly, you have to appreciate that I'm actually an Indian born in Africa, colonial roots, and then for all my life I've had a British passport. So I'm kind of confused sometimes. But the one thing that I would say about Britain is, notwithstanding its colonial past, it's actually probably the fairest country in the world, in my humble opinion. And sometimes, as I said in my speech, we sometimes are too fair, and people take advantage of that, and that's not right. But I would rather have it that than not being fair at all.
Thank you. And having watched all the British movies and visited a couple of times, I would definitely agree with that. There's this sense of fairness, of good sportsmanship that is just so British. And I have a question for you, Elizabeth, from somebody who texted it in. Thank you for the text messaging. I also messaged it to you. What would you recommend as a must-see when visiting England? And this question is for you, Elizabeth. Yes.
Okay, I think it depends which part of England, because it is so rich in history and culture. I think if you were in London and you wanted to see one thing, I would say go to the Tower of London. You have got over 1,000 years of history. If you go to Liverpool, I would go to the Beatles Museum, because that is about music and they're so well known. If you are in Bath, go to Stonehenge or go to the pump rooms if you've read Pride and Prejudice. It really depends which part of the country you are. I mean, but there's something everywhere you go to delight you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I would like to throw that same question to Nick. I know you're driving, but if you can respond to that.
Yeah, totally agree. Liverpool's a place to go for the Beatles Museum, the ferry on the Mersey, and all sorts of culture. But also throughout the country, there's a lot of history. But one place I went to a couple of years ago was about an hour's drive from me here, and they actually found some sort of site where it's believed that our Homo sapiens, or in the Bronze Age.
Okay, I'm afraid that Nick has. Oh, okay. I thought he was freezing. So, okay, Nick, thank you so much. I'm worrying that you're driving and responding, so we will probably not engage you too much. The last thing we want is for you not to be safe. Thank you. Thank you.
Michelle, we drive on the left-hand side of the road here, and everybody's cool. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, see, you're just seeing another very British behavior or cultural norm. I think you very rarely see the birds in the UK. Very rarely. I'm talking about, flipping people on the road. Very, very rarely do you see that. They have beautiful birds, but not that kind of bird. So I have another question. So what would you consider as, well, I think Elizabeth already answered this when she spoke about fish and chips. Other than fish and chips, is there anything else that's peculiarly or typically British in terms of cuisine?
Yes, I think we have a dish called bangers and mash, which is basically sausages served with mashed potato and gravy. I don't think any other country does that. It is very nice. I mean, some people love it. It is nice, but that I think is quite uniquely British, bangers and mash. If you're going to have high tea, you also have your scones, which you have with jam and cream. and that is absolutely beautiful. And I think, again, the cream comes from Devon or Cornwall, and the jam is locally made. And I think that also is, again, as I said, quintessentially English.
Thanks. Thank you, Nick. Anything else that you consider in terms of cuisine or your food that's
Well, I'm
typically
surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised Elizabeth didn't mention this. Having cucumber sandwiches with the Queen.
Okay, so let me see. I believe we have a few more minutes left. I don't have any other text in message. Anybody from the room? I think, is that Adam or is that, I can't quite see who it is, but yes, please go ahead.
What's your where's your favorite pub and why?
Where's your favorite pub? I guess we will have Nick answer that first.
Why is that, Michelle?
Yes, gender bias is showing. Okay.
Okay, well, currently my favorite pub is the Bull's Head, which is quite a British name. And the reason for that is that we can actually go for a drink. We used to be able to watch the football in there whilst having carvery on a Sunday afternoon. And at the side of the pub, at the back, where the pub garden is, there's actually what you call a place where you can play lawn bowls at a bowling green. Okay, I don't know whether you know what that is. The game of bowls. I think it was it Sir Francis Drake who was playing before the Spanish Armada arrived or something. Anyway, long story. So yeah, the Bull's Head.
Bull's Head. We will remember that. Elizabeth, I mean, do you ever go to a pub? And if you do, which one is your favorite one?
I do. I've been to many beautiful pubs all around England. But at this point in time, my favorite one is a pub called Wellington in the village next to where I live. It's very old. Part of it is like 13th century, very cozy, very relaxing. And they serve very nice food as well as drink. So that's my favorite at the moment.
Thank you. We have to remember the Wellington and
the Wellington.
Yes. Thank you very much. And at
Michelle,
this point,
can I add something?
Yes, very briefly, because we are
Very
just
briefly.
about a time.
Okay. I used to live in Leicestershire, which is in the middle of England. And there's a pub near where I used to live called the Malt Shovel. And that is a very old pub dating back hundreds and hundreds of years, where they actually stopped, had a drink, and then apparently went off to fight in the Crusades.
Wow.
How about that for some?
Yes. Yeah. I think we have a follow-up question, a brief one. Yes, please.
What piece of literature do you feel best encapsulates that sense of English justice that you described earlier?
Awesome. Either Elizabeth,
I only caught part of that.
What piece of literature encapsulates or captures that you know what you were talking about, the English sense of fair play and justice and their culture?
Okay, this one's for you, Elizabeth.
I'm happy to answer that. For me personally, I think the books of I love reading, and I think the books of Dickens, because I think what Dickens did so very well and so elegantly in his writing is to show the poverty and some of the injustices in older England. And I think his books did a lot to help change the situation for poorer people in England. So I still think that his books are very, very good, encapsulates that sense of fair play, as does Shakespeare. I mean, I think even to this day, you read Shakespeare, there's any political situation in the world, you can read the Henrys or the Richards, and you can see that politics. And I think the sense of English fair play is in, as I said, Dickens, Shakespeare, you know, the list goes on.
Yes, yes, thank you. And I've been to England a couple of times, but I used to work with the British a lot. One of the things that I feel is so important is also their, it's not just courage, it's the stiff upper lip kind
Mm.
of valor and courage. Best exemplified in the bridge over the bridge of the River Kwai,
River
where they were going
Kwai.
to
Yeah.
build, they were going to build a bridge and then they were going to blow it up. But
Mm.
regardless, they put in every
Mm.
single effort. And oh gosh, I mean, I watched that movie a dozen times and I can watch it again. So the English are
Mm.
just, I think they're, I think every country in the world would say this, but I believe we can really say of the English that there is no other place like England in terms of the culture, in terms of the values, as Elizabeth had said. And oh my gosh, personally, I could sit here all day and talk about England, but obviously the timer will send
Listen,
a machine gun over here. So at this point, I wish to thank our panelists. Let's give them both a really big hand, a big round of applause. Thank you so much. And return control back to our Toastmaster. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. Thank you for that question and answer part of the speeches. And thank you for the two wonderful speeches about England. I've never been there, so I love hearing about it. We have probably, I would say, about a couple more minutes of extra time. So does anyone want to do something impromptu? That's a hint. Table topics. Impromptu. Okay, let's do it. I was sitting here thinking that we would probably have a couple minutes to extra. Therefore, I was thinking, what could we do? Why not table topics? So here it is. Here's the question. What is your experience with going to England, or what do you imagine England is like if you've never been here? The panelists kind of cheated. They already answered. Or if you've been there, tell us something we don't know about England that we would find intriguing. Only because I would kind of like to go someday. Do I have any volunteers? Steve, come on up.
Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters, I was telling somebody earlier that I've never actually been to England except to change planes to go on to Scotland. And I would like to say that not my favorite pub, but my favorite pub name was a pub in Johnston, Scotland, called the Bird in the Hand. And my favorite author, English author, is not actually from England, but her characters and her stories take place in England. Martha Grimes. And she writes books about inspector jury in England. And all of the books are titled with the name of a pub. My favorite one actually is a pub in the United States, in Baltimore. And it has to do with football, with American football, because they took the Baltimore Colts and moved them to Indianapolis. So there's a pub there, or at least in the book, called The Horse You Rode In On. And that's my favorite pub name in America. And
Good job, Steve. Thank you. Fun fact about Scotland. I'm royalty there. One of my great ancestors was the king. It was like over probably 500 years ago. I like to think I'm a princess. Oh, my dad's princess. Josh, you got your hand up. Come on up.
All right. I've got a good one. Hello, Toastmasters. Mine concerns British history, and it is something that I have pondered for a while. The Acts of Union in 1707 merged the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Scotland into the Kingdom of Great Britain. The Acts of Union 1800 merged the Kingdom of Great Britain and the Kingdom of Ireland into the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, which makes me think the United States was named in 1776, while the United Kingdom was named in 1800. So who was named for whom?
Oh.
The dates.
Yeah, you would think, we have this conception that the United Kingdom is much older and its, legal history and judicial system go so much farther back, especially England. But the United Kingdom did not officially get its nomenclature until 1800. So I have always kind of wondered that there are previous political entities such as the United Kingdom or United Provinces of the Netherlands that had similar names, via translations or whatnot. But I've always kind of had this lingering suspicion, was the United Kingdom actually named after the United States?
Thank you, Josh. That was a very good brain teaser.
Thank you.
We have time for one more. Does anyone have... Cheryl, come on up.
Madam Toastmaster. Madam Toastmaster. Last year, during spring break, I had the opportunity to visit London on a literary London educational trip with some students at the school where I teach at. And there were three noteworthy things that I took away from that experience that I'm reflecting on today in light of our presenters and the information that they've shared that seem quintessentially London. Quintessentially, I didn't explore all of the area, but I will share those with you briefly. The first was I was walking around and immediately I'm kind of assessing or looking at the look of people, the attire, the clothing, because it says a lot about a person in any culture, but wondering if there's anything distinctive, and I couldn't quite pinpoint it. And another chaperone that was with me who has frequented London and did their master's degree at a school in London, and so they had pointed out to me that it's the men. That I was looking at the women, and I'm like, they dress like me, they look like me. I mean, I don't see anything distinctive, but something is not quite the same. And she said it's the men. The men are quite dapper, and they definitely have the shoes and the vests and the bow ties and all the details. They're quite proper. And I thought, oh, that's what it is. That's distinctly different from what our culture is here. The other thing is when I visited a museum and I had the opportunity to get some accessibility devices for the deaf. And as some of you know, I'm a sign language interpreter here in the United States. In Europe, they use British Sign Language, which is different from American Sign Language. So I played a little game with myself to see how much I might be able to figure out between the two. There was a lot I did not understand. It's quite different, the British Sign Language. And then the last thing that I noticed was cuisine related. And it didn't come up today, but perhaps you can help me recall what it is referred to. It was an egg that was a Scottish egg. Yes, a Scottish egg. Scotch eggs or Scotch, not Scotch broom, that's the plant. Oh, is that a yes? Is that what it is, a Scottish egg?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that was a unique experience. I do enjoy the food flavors from different cultures. I think that's a way to really kind of get in there and try something. And I looked at it, and though it looked I was a little nervous about it, I did muster up the gumption to try that.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I love trying foods from different cultures also. Okay, now is on to our evaluation part of the meeting. First, I wanted to say my one of my coworkers came in and dropped off some cake. Therefore, if you've got room for dessert, feel free to grab some fruit pie or fruit cake. But right now, I'll take control over to Lindsay in the meantime.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. What a fun day today. It's been an awesome culturally speaking series, open house. We've had a great time, great food, and great panelists. Thank you so very much. Today I'm on the role of general evaluator, so I will be going around and asking for the reports of the timer, the grammarian, and any other just general evaluation comments. So first we'll start off with Adam, the grammarian's report. If you'd like to share.
You, Madam Toastmaster, fellow guests, fellow Toastmasters, and general evaluator. Okay, so I only heard gumption once. Congratulations, Cheryl. You get the gold star for using the word of the day. Steve, Cheryl, and Josh, you guys all did table topics. I found your table topics to be very well said, very well put. Those are quick responses to the question that Lisa posed to you guys, and I thought you all did a very good job. I didn't catch any ums or ahs in your presentations. What is the first one? Nick? Nick, if you're still there, I don't know if you're driving or not, but you did a wonderful job in your presentation. You had very nice pauses. I thought that the presentation structure was really well thought out and put. You had the intro, the body, and then your summary or your ending. It flowed really well, and it was a nice topic and had some great takeaways. Elizabeth, you did a wonderful job as well. I learned some things from your presentation. You had great slides with photos. I love having pictures in the slides and not a lot of words, and just having the presenter talk about the pictures rather than just reading from the slides themselves. It's not very interactive that way. It's kind of boring, actually. So I thought that you had a great presentation. I did catch a couple ums in there, but your sentence structure was wonderful, and you did a great job. And overall, that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Next, we'll turn it over to Will for the timer's report. Thank you, Will.
Fellow Toastmasters, for the first presentation, Nick, I clocked you at 5 minutes and 52 seconds. Elizabeth, I clocked you at 5 minutes and 40 seconds. For the impromptu speaking, Steve, you had 1 minute and 30 seconds. Josh, it was 1 minute and 15 seconds. And Cheryl was 2 minutes and 47 seconds. Thank you.
This time we'll just take a few minutes to do any general evaluation. If anybody would like to pop in a quick little evaluation comment of the panelist speaker or just about how the meeting went today. Yeah, Miss Lisa.
I enjoyed hearing about England. I enjoyed the different cultural descriptions. I really enjoyed the overall presentations. And I thought the meeting went pretty smoothly. I know the one thing that Toasting Excellence likes to do is to make sure that the front's never empty. So when there's someone coming up to the front, that they wait to shake the hand, and then the person that's already there leaves. But everything went smoothly, everything went nicely. I consider this a successful open house.
Good, thank you.
I have a question for, is it Elizabeth?
Yes.
You said you lived near a village. What village is that?
I live in a village called Codicot, C-O-D-I-C-O-T-E, and it's close to Hatfield. And you may hear of Hatfield House because it's where Elizabeth I grew up. So there's a massive stately home, and the film that won the best film at the Oscar this year was filmed at Hatfield House. So I live close to there.
Thank you. Wonderful.
You want to take your No, feel free. So somebody can find a home for them. Thank you, Cheryl.
All right, thank you.
Great question, Terry. Jim?
I thought it was neat that we were able to have presenters from basically across the world via the Zoom and login. So that was neat that they could do it. I don't know what time it is there in England, but
Yeah, it's evening, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's close to 9 p.m. for them
Close to
now.
9 p.m. Yeah, close to 9 p.m.
So Nick was headed to the pub.
No, he was going to play his favorite sports. And it's not weightlifting.
Any other evaluation? Michelle, do you have any wrap-up things you'd like to share?
Well, I wanted to commend Jim, especially. He was there very early, he was getting everything set up and the slides, everything. He just managed everything very smoothly. And everybody who was there early, that was impressive. I came in about a 11:15, and there were already people around, milling around in the room. And I really loved the way that everybody was engaged, and whoever sent in those text questions, I didn't have your names, but thank you for texting in those questions. It was awesome that I got, boom, somebody came in with a question. So thank you. I really enjoyed today's meeting, and I look forward to whatever other events we might have in the future. Back to you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other general evaluation?
Well, it was fun.
Yeah, today was really
A
fun.
lot of fun.
Lot of
Culturally enlightening.
fun. I'm really glad that the 2 laptops actually worked out. The technical part of it was great. So
Yes,
great job.
Jim, yes.
That's all I have for general evaluation. Do you have anything for wrap up, or we can close a few minutes early? Thank you, Missy.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good job. One thing I want to do is ask Bella, what did you think of today?
Oh, it's really fun. It's fun to get to do something a little different. I have a special place in my heart for England, so it was just coincidental that I was here, and I sure enjoyed the speakers. Thank you both. That was awesome. And thank you, Michelle, for emceeing. And also nice to meet you, Michelle. I keep on somehow not managing to meet you in person, but at least I get to see your face.
Thank you. And did you know, guys, the Transtoasters is only the second club in District 7 to have online attendance. The first one was the Yakina Toastmasters out in the coast. We are the second, so we are the second longest running club with online attendance in the district. We have bragging rights.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I would say that this would bring a meeting to wraps. Anyone want to stay, enjoy some dessert before you have to head back to work?
I do.
And Bobby, for joining us too, if you're still there. And
Thanks so much.
have a
Thanks,
good day.
Michelle. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye. And Bobby, if you're still around, Bobby, are you within Oregon? Bobby, would you like to unmute yourself now that the meeting is over? We have a guest, actually. Her name is Bobby, but I guess Bobby is shy or just doesn't, maybe she can't speak. Oh, I think maybe she's at work right now. So, yeah.